Have you ever been in one of those meetings, where everyone agrees on the problem, but then, bam, splits into these passionate factions over the solution? Especially when it's about, like, high-stakes technology or bringing in outside partners. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into a really key case from the adventures of an IT leader. We're looking closely at Chapter 14, all about vendor partnering. We're going to dissect how IT leaders, how they navigate this complex, sometimes pretty messy world of picking and managing external partners. Our aim is to pull out the practical wisdom Jim Barton, the CIO in the story, learns along the way so you can maybe apply it in your own work.
Yeah, exactly. Our mission today really is to distill the core insights from this chapter. We want to guide you through the critical, the organizational management and IT challenges that just come with vendor partnering. We'll connect these lessons straight to strategic information systems, IT service management, and, essential leadership development. Think of this as your shortcut, basically, to getting genuinely well-informed on a topic that's just, it's vital today.
And hey, if you find this deep dive useful, maybe share it with a colleague or a fellow student. Your engagement really helps us bring more of these kinds of strategic insights out. Okay, so let's unpack this scenario. So picture this. We're dropped into a super high-tension project meeting at IVK, this financial services company. Jim Barton, he's the CIO. He's deliberately staying quiet at the back. Now, this team, they're supposed to be replacing IVK's old back-office systems, but the atmosphere is just tense. Because there's history here, right? The last attempt with a vendor called NetFX, total failure. And it was made worse because Barton himself unilaterally just canceled the contract. That really damaged trust, bruised some egos on his team.
Oh, absolutely. It's a classic leadership tightrope he's walking. He acted decisively before, maybe too decisively, And now he gets it. He has to practice some serious restraint. The book actually says he's almost literally biting his tongue. Mm-hmm. He knows deep down that to rebuild that trust, that sense of ownership, he has to let the team wrestle through their pattern of dysfunction and find consensus themselves. It's a tough lesson, right? Leading sometimes means stepping back. It's not always about having the answer. Sometimes it's about empowering your team to find them.
Right. And while they all agreed, okay, building from scratch was a mistake, buying off the shelf is the way to go, that just opened up a whole new can of worms. By late September, you had three huge disagreements splitting this cross-functional team into factions. First, which vendor? Which software package? Second, how do we even structure the contract? And third, what's the service delivery model look like? Cloud, in-house. Each one of these questions was threatening to just stall the whole project. Again, okay, so vendor selection. They actually did follow a pretty solid RFP process. Got it down from over 20 submissions to 3 finalists. And technically, all 3 finalists met the core specs. But this is where it gets fascinating, because what started as, an objective comparison, it quickly turned deeply personal. Team members started passionately backing their favorites.
Let's quickly run through them. First up, H.Soft. They're a newer player. Their solution, it only moderately fit IVK's needs out of the box, needed quite a bit of customization, and their implementation relied on this complex coalition of subcontractors. So yeah, H.Soft offered technical flexibility and open architecture, potential for future innovation, but the big IT issue, unproven robustness, questions about reliability for enterprise scale, and of course that fragmented accountability with all the subs. It appealed to the techies, sure, but it was definitely minority support because of those reliability and complexity worries. Technical elegance isn't everything, right?
Definitely not. Then you had VirtuSweb. The book even calls them the sentimental favorite. This was a smaller company, niche player in finance. Their style, their culture, their software proposal, it aligned almost perfectly with IVK's detailed specs. And the IVK team just, they liked them. Their people seemed earnest, accommodating. There was this comfortable feeling. So that cultural fit, the promise of maybe an easier implementation, it won them a really passionate following.
Which, right there, that's a classic management risk flag, isn't it? It feels good. It's emotionally appealing. But the skeptics, they were right to point out the hard facts. VirtuSweb was smaller, less financially secure, and that immediately raises IT and organizational concerns. Did they have the capacity for a project this big? What if IVK outgrew them? What if VirtuSweb didn't even survive long-term? It's a huge lesson. You cannot let personal rapport cloud objective due diligence, especially financial stability. It's not just who you like, it's who can actually deliver reliably over the long haul.
So true. And then the third contender, Serverlith, the giant. The industry leader, huge established global clients. From an IT perspective, their solution hit IVK's functional needs. Scalability, performance, it all seemed rock solid. On paper, absolutely the safe choice, easy to justify up the chain.
But, and it's a big but, This is where organizational history and management issues just slammed into the technical merits. Many people on Barton's team, they had bad past experiences with serverless, reputation for being arrogant, overpriced, and unresponsive, and then a huge red flag during their pitch. A promised top technical expert. A no-show. Why? Prioritizing a bigger client. That immediately sparked fears. How would IVK, a mid-sized client, actually get treated down the line? Could they get the attention they needed? It really underscores a crucial point in leadership development, doesn't it? A vendor's past behavior, their perceived commitment, that can be just as critical as their tech specs.
And as these discussions dragged on, the fault lines just got deeper. The serverless camp basically accused the VersaWeb fans of ignoring facts, being irrational, while the VersaWeb defenders fired back, accusing the serverless folks of dismissing the really important people factors and their own bad past experiences. It just ground to a halt. Consensus. Gone.
Yeah, Barton saw the impasse. He saw it clearly. And his first instinct, naturally, was impose process discipline. Pull out the weighted scorecard, the decision matrix, standard IT project governance. But he knew, especially after his earlier unilateral move with NetEffects, that forcing it now would just make the rift worse. He had to rebuild trust. So this was a real test of leadership restraint for him. He needed to let his team wrestle with it, however messy it got, to restore that ownership. Sometimes the strongest move is just holding back, letting the team own it.
And vendor choice wasn't the only fight. The second huge debate was about the relationship itself. Like, what kind of vendor relationship did IVK want? Should it be tough, arm's length, strict enforcement, or more like a collaborative partnership? This question went right to the heart of IVK's whole strategic approach to using external help.
Right. On one side, you had the hardline group. They were arguing for contracts with teeth, aggressive SLAs, big penalties, backloaded payments. Their thinking was all about control, accountability. Especially after getting burned by NetEffects, right? It's kind of a COVID-style governance view. Focus on controls, metrics, consequences. If you're outsourcing critical IT, you have to keep control via the contract because, trust isn't enough on its own. But then opposing them, you had the cooperative faction. They believed in building collaboration, not just punishment. They argued for fair, balanced contracts, sharing risks and rewards, emphasizing trust, open communication, joint steering committees. This aligns much more with, say, ITIL best practices, focusing on partnership and continuous improvement. And it's no surprise many of the VersaWeb supporters were in this camp, given that cultural fit.
So this wasn't just about legal terms, was it? It was a clash over IVK's basic philosophy of partnering, command and control versus strategic alliance. This organizational culture clash was huge. It would define how IT dealt with outsiders from then on.
And it was fascinating how tightly this contract debate linked back to the vendor choice itself. With serverless, the giant, IVK probably wouldn't have much leverage. They'd likely have to accept serverless standard contract, which often felt pretty toothless, implying a formal arm's-length relationship almost by default. With VersaWeb, the smaller player, IVK had the power. They could demand big teeth. But the cooperative folks warned, rightly, about potentially crippling a smaller, maybe financially weaker partner. The management challenge there was finding the wisdom to ensure commitment without, strangling them. And H.Soft, that whole ecosystem of partners meant multiple contracts. Accountability gets really tricky there unless you designate a very strong lead integrator. It really shows your contract strategy has to fit your chosen partner and your own organization's tolerance for risk.
Barton's watching all this, feeling that urge, the itch to jump in and sort it out. But again, he holds back. He trusts the team needs to grapple with this fundamental question. Is it contractual control or collaborative trust? That's a tough leadership moment, letting your team wrestle like that. Okay, so vendor choice and contract style weren't enough drama. There was a third major split, the service delivery model. Each vendor had a totally different idea for hosting, raising huge questions about ownership, control, risk. Strategically, the core question was, should IVK run this system in-house, hand it off completely to the cloud, or try something in between, like a hybrid model? This cut right to the bone of IVK's future technology strategy.
Serverless pitch was pure cloud, SIRS. They own it, they operate it, IVK just pays a monthly fee. Now, for some IT folks, this sounded great. Cloud's the future. Free up IVK IT for more strategic stuff, competitive advantage work, promises of efficiency, cost savings. But John Cho, the security chief, he was deeply uncomfortable. Loss of control, huge security worries about customer financial data sitting on vendor servers, compliance issues, data residency, plus concerns about multi-tenancy sharing resources could performance suffer, and this idea that IVK's unique processes might get absorbed and then offered to competitors, Ouch. It's that core tension, isn't it? Balancing the lure of hands-off efficiency against that fundamental need for control over critical data and processes.
Exactly. And then completely opposite, you had VerxWeb's model on premises, software installed on IVK's own gear inside IVK's data center. This directly addressed those security and control anxieties. IVK keeps full oversight of the data.
Yeah, VerxWeb claimed they could offer cloud efficiencies, but without the data ever leaving IVK. Skeptics kind of wondered how true multi-tenant savings worked with dedicated hardware, but okay. And they promised exclusivity, no reusing IVK's customizations, no working with competitors. That appealed to the trust angle, the shared fate idea. It felt evolutionary, maybe safer, prioritizing data governance and internal control over maybe radical innovation.
And then Hiosoft. Their approach was the most flexible, maybe the most ambiguous too. They offer the core software platform, and then IVK basically decides the hosting, in-house cloud, partner data centers, some third party, open architecture, hybrid was definitely possible.
Maximum flexibility, yes. But that puts a ton of responsibility and overhead right back on IVK's shoulders. More decisions to make, risk of getting stuck in paralysis by analysis, and crucially, from an IT service management view, there's no one throat to choke. If there's an outage. Multiple parties could be pointing fingers. This model absolutely demanded sophisticated vendor management, really strong governance. That's a significant IT management lift. So these choices, they weren't just about servers and code. They directly shaped the future operating model, the skills IVK's IT department would need going forward.
You can just imagine Barton watching this unfold, mentally juggling all these complex IT issues. Cybersecurity, data governance, integration complexity, long-term costs.
Yeah.
Because these technical decisions, they have profound implications for the workforce. What skills do you need? Outsourcing heavily means your staff become vendor managers. Keeping it in-house means retaining deep tech skills. It's about the whole future shape of IVK's IT, which then leads directly to another critical talent issue. Barton meets with Maria Navarro, VP of HR. He wants to discuss hiring this guy, Ash Srinivasa, super talented developer, worked on the failed NetFX contract. But Ash knows IVK's backend systems inside and out. Very tempting hire, despite the baggage.
Right, and Maria, doing her HR job, immediately flags the organizational and management hurdles, non-solicitation clauses with NetFX. Is Ash really worth the fight?
She eventually gives the green light, but then she asks this much deeper, much more strategic question. It really forces Barton to think. She asks, why do we need someone this good? Exactly. Maria just cuts right to a core management and IT issue. If IVK is moving towards more outsourcing, won't they just need, smart contract managers, not deep technical experts like Ash? It's such a critical question for workforce planning today, isn't it? What skills do you really need when your IT landscape is changing so fast?
And Barton, credit to him, admits he needs to rethink. He realizes IVK absolutely must have retained capabilities. They need internal experts, architects, analysts, people who can speak the vendor's language, critically evaluate proposals, make sure IVK's interests are actually protected. This is such a key insight for leadership development in today's IT world. It stops you from repeating past mistakes, like maybe not being able to properly supervise or challenge vendor work. Even with outsourcing, strategic IT demands strong internal tech leadership.
So the organizational and management challenge then becomes, okay, how do you keep top technical talent like Ash engaged in a world leaning towards outsourcing? Will people who love building things be happy just managing contracts? How do you offer them growth, challenges? Barton starts to think about hybrid roles, maybe rotations, keeping that crucial talent on board. All these interlocking challenges meant to choice, contracts, delivery models, talent. You got Barton thinking even bigger picture. He's talking with Bernie Rubin, a veteran IT manager, about this article he read. It was about Boeing and how they strategically shifted how they build airplanes. Boeing moved away from doing everything themselves, vertical integration, towards orchestrating this global network of strategic partners. Boeing became effectively the expert in integration. That sparked something for Barton.
It's a really powerful strategic IT analogy, isn't it? Boeing outsourced huge parts of design, manufacturing, tapping into global talent pools. But making that work required incredibly advanced IT systems for coordination, sharing designs, managing logistics, basically virtual integration.
Yeah.
They fundamentally shifted their processes from owner control to partner coordination, building trust, designing contracts for shared risk. It's a perfect example of how digital transformation and strategic IT can enable a whole new business model.
And this leads Barton to provoke his team and himself, really.
Yeah.
Are we stuck in the weeds here, just arguing about this one vendor, this one system? Should we step back and ask a much bigger question? What if IVK imagined itself as being Mostly an integrator of services. Are we being ambitious enough? Can we orchestrate a whole network, not just pick one partner?
Of course, Bernie, the pragmatist, brings it back down to earth a bit. He points out, IVK is finance, not manufacturing. Information versus physical products. He rightly notes IVK's industry might not be as mature in this kind of partnering. And IVK isn't exactly the Boeing of banking. So while the vision is inspiring, you have to consider the management constraints. What's actually feasible for this organization in this industry right now?
But Barton's mind is already going there. He's thinking, could IVK tap specialized fintech partners all over the world? Maybe for AI-driven credit analysis, or blockchain for transactions, instead of building everything in-house. Could IVK's IT transform into an ecosystem orchestrator? Like how agile companies use external innovation networks. It's a really bold digital transformation vision he's starting to form.
But Bernie, wisely, lands the final reality check. The immediate management constraint. The team is completely swamped with the current project, this grand vision. It's too big for 4.30 on a Thursday, and definitely not something to dump on the team in the next project meeting. It's such a vital reminder for leaders. Strategic vision is crucial, yes, but you also have to manage the pace of change. You have to respect your team's current capacity.
Wow, what a deep dive that was. We've really peeled back the layers on vendor partnering, haven't we? From those immediate fights over vendors and contracts, all the way to the huge implications for long-term IT strategy, for talent, and for leadership itself.
It really does hammer home that IT leadership. It's so much more than just the technology. It's about navigating these incredibly complex organizational dynamics,
Right.
making really tough management calls, and ultimately defining a clear strategic vision for how IT fits into the business's future. Every single decision ripples out.
Absolutely. And if you found this discussion insightful, please do consider sharing it with your network. Your thoughts and discussions really help enrich the learning for everyone.
So thinking about all the challenges Jim Barton faced, what do you believe is the single most critical factor for successful IT vendor partnering today? Is it ironclad contractual controls? Is it deep trust and collaboration? Or is it having that clear strategic vision for how external capabilities actually fit into your organization's future? Something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in and stay strategic.